Hey Modern Samurai viewers, this is my ninth time trying to do this video. I've been having exposure issues. I'm trying to not have that window overexposed, but I think you're just going to wind up having to live with it. Anyway, it is Saturday, and I wanted to talk to you part about something that happened last Saturday. Now, I have done vlog entries on this in the interim that are sitting in this phone, but I'm going to throw those away because my thoughts have I have a different perspective, a wider perspective on it now, and I don't like editing things that I'm not interested in anymore, and what I had to say a week ago, I can just tell you again, new and fresh. So, what many of you may not know is that I have made a living as a professional photographer, videographer, and photographer. Now, granted, I was also the tech nerd running the website that it was on, and the webmaster, and the guy who owned the company, that the it wasn't like I was just, making a living as a wedding photographer, but, the food that went on the table had everything to do with the art that was involved. And it was a lot of fun, and it has been decades, literally more than a decade, since I picked up a camera and purely for the love of the photographs I was taking, went out and deliberately expended time and effort to put myself in a position where I could take a lot of photographs. I've done no end of commercial projects. I've shot videos for products and documentaries and for social media. I've shot my own social media, but even then the photographs were deliberately tailored for the business effect or the social media effect I was going for. Last year, I did a photograph a day for all of 2017, and those shots were in support of an artistic activity, but the artistic activity was specifically the synthesis or the synergy between the quotation I was putting over it and the photograph and that year-long project as a whole. So I wouldn't say that that was a pure photography project, though obviously photography was involved and it was an artistic endeavor. So when a good friend of mine, King Garcia, I will link him below, and you know him, we've done video reviews of some movies together. He reached out to me because he's involved in running these photography meetups, and we had talked about me attending one before, and he was like, hey, by the way, just so you know, we're doing another photography meetup, and you might want to come, you might want to be involved. I know you've mentioned it before. And now, here's the thing I kind of want to talk to you about, right? There was a voice in my head that instantly wanted to say no. Now, why is that? Well, I'm uncomfortable, slightly uncomfortable in new social situations where there are a lot of people I don't know. I'm particularly, I'm not a big fan of relearning in front of strangers, something I like to think I'm reasonably good at, but my skills are a little rusty in, and it was kind of last minute notice, and so the voice in my head that wanted to say no coughed up its reasons, and it said, you're really busy at work, and I have been. You haven't slept a lot, which is true, and you have so much to do. You're so busy, you couldn't possibly find time to do this. And that's the one I always watch for, that you're so busy. And here's how I want you to approach it. Here's how I approach it. When my little voice in the back of my head coughs that up, I immediately say, what am I busy doing? Because there are only two possible events that are occurring at that moment in time. One, that's the voice of resistance and inertia and like momentum, and we'll talk about that voice in a minute. And it's just trying to convince me not to do something new because of unspecified concerns. Or it's genuinely true that my schedule is slammed and that I have a number of high priority tasks that are coming up that I have somehow forgotten about. And it's critical that I dive into that right now and at least start a cursory audit of finding out what I have coming up that might have slipped my mind. So that voice is not always a bad thing. Sometimes that's the voice that's telling you, oh my God, you committed to this and you had better do it before you commit to something else. Now that voice of resistance, as they would have called it in the War of Art, or the voice of laziness or inertia, I do not want you to always characterize that inner voice by its worst motives, because it's not always true that it's just laziness. It's also a critical part of the warning mechanism in your mind that keeps you from pursuing momentary and silly goals. It's the part that keeps you from, it's the way your subconscious reminds you of things that your conscious might have forgotten about. It is the way you maintain consistency of purpose. But like most of your psyche, it evolved over time, right? It's not, I'm going to put my atheist hat on for a minute. The human mind was not designed all in one piece as a perfect functioning machine. We are a squabbling pile of motives and sub-processes and subconscious drives and physical structures that drive our subconscious drives that all work together to create the foundation by which your conscious mind sort of drifts around on it. And those voices are always screaming at you with their own myopic view of the world. So this voice, the one that says don't do new things, don't try, don't whatever, that voice has a value and it has a purpose and it evolved for a reason. And in context, you must listen to it and balance it against what you're hearing from the other parts of your mind. It's only when you let that voice get too loud and take over entirely that you become ossified and you don't ever try anything new. So I want you to put that voice in context, and I want you to understand that voice's motives, and I want you to understand that that part of you is important. But I want you to know that it's not the final arbiter of what your choices should be. It just needs to be evaluated against what else you know. Anyway, so that part of me spoke up and was like, oh, you couldn't do it, you're really busy, yada, 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 yada. And it was important to me to find out what was I so busy doing. So I took 2 seconds and I did a quick mental calculation about what I had to do. And I looked at what I was planning on doing and it turns out I did have some stuff to do that weekend. I was running out of time. So something else had to go. Something else was going to have to go to make room to go and do this photography thing. So I jumped into my leisure activities list and my low priority project tasks, and I checked this photography thing, and it turns out, you know what, damn it, I could fit it in. I'm just going to have to move some stuff around. So I went ahead and said yes and committed to it. And I jumped on the meetup group and I signed up for the thing and I got approved into the group because I had never done it before, and I paid my money. And then that night I made sure I had all my batteries charged and I got my camera gear together and I reconfigured my camera and I was set. And then I went that Saturday and I had a great time. If you have not been to a local photography meetup and you are in have a photographic bent, I strongly suggest that you go and do one. It was a blast. King ran it fantastically. The group itself was composed of really great people, welcoming, just ever helpful. Somebody's memory card crept up, somebody gave them a memory card, people were lending each other batteries. It was just so nice to be around people who were so helpful, and I just enjoyed every minute of it. So that was all very cool. And then the model was great. Her name is Lois, and I will put one of the pictures of Lois up, hold on, where's this one? Yeah, I'll put it somewhere over here. And I will link to some of my Instagram photos of her. I will link to her Instagram. I will, that reminds me, I got to link to King's Instagram. I'll link to the meetup group. Anyway, I'll link everything that I can link, but you'll see a couple photos here. Lois was great. The group was great. I had a great time. And, it's always amazing when you can pursue something. And this is why I want you to pursue these things when you can, because there's always a cascade effect. So much good came out of this, and it was so worthwhile. For instance, I got to meet some very cool people, which is good in and of itself, because networking is life in this highly interconnected world we're in. And I got to hang out with King, which was great. And I got to take some photographs, which was fantastic. and showed me what was working well and what wasn't working well about my photography equipment. And I got to see how these meetups run, because I have an interest in doing something similar, not competing with these photography meetups, but something that's going to involve bringing people together in the pursuit of a common goal. And it was really good to see one of those groups in action and see how that goes. And there was just so much good that came out of it for that small investment in time. And that's what I want you to understand. You should not just take that voice that says you can't do these things, that you don't have the time. Don't just take it at face value. Don't always reject it, which is what some people will tell you. They'll tell you, oh, if that voice in your head tells you not to do something, you should go do it. That's not true either. Listen to the voice, evaluate it, and deal with it. You know, Jordan Peterson, who I've mentioned before, has a great saying, which is something that has some applicability in this context. And one of his precepts is, you know, deal with yourself as if you were someone you were responsible for or someone you cared about. And what that means in this context is, I want you to take the voices in your head seriously as if they have your best intentions at heart. But then that conscious part of you, the part that animals don't have, that very, very special part that makes us human, that executive decision-making part of you, the thing that makes you more than the sum of your voices, I want you to go ahead and make a real choice, an informed choice. And then, if you can, if it's possible, stretch out, do something new, do something out of the pattern. If all you do is what you've been doing, then all you're going to get is what you're getting. And hopefully you're doing things that you are moving your life forward, and you've made habits that are taking you in the right direction. So hopefully if all you did is what you've been doing now, you're already aiming in a place you're happy with. But you never have perfect knowledge of the world around you, and you have to broaden your horizons so that you can gain access to people and experiences and knowledge that you didn't have before. And in this case, it's, you know, reminded me how much I love this style of photography. It's reminded me how good it is to be part of that community. Does that mean that I'm going to be shooting photographs every weekend? No. You know, it's not that big a priority in my life. But I'm glad I did it. And I'm glad that, you know, my friend reached out to me. I'm glad he took it upon himself to nudge me a little bit. That's one of those things friends do for each other. You know, we talk about keeping each other honest. We talk about helping each other. We talk about the idea that friendship is about making each other better, and that if you ally yourself with friends who are good people and mean good things, then this is the sort of thing you can do for each other. You can call somebody up and be like, hey, you know, you mentioned you want to take some photographs. Why not this weekend? And so that's good, you know? Anyway, I hope you guys are having a fantastic weekend. I hope if you see this video with enough time that you know, if you can make your schedule work, go do something new. And if you can't, I hope you are using your time to actively do something every day that moves your goals forward, that makes your life better, so that tomorrow you are actually closer to your goals than today. Hopefully tomorrow's easier for you than today. Maybe you did something today that's going to pay off tomorrow. But even if you're in the grind phase, I still hope that you're moving forward. All right, everybody. Take it easy. We're coming up on 14 minutes, and that's my cutoff. Take it easy, guys. Bye-bye.